Hey guys, it's RodimusPrimal, and I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about something that was said in an interview from the director of Godzilla vs. Kong when it comes down to Transformers. You're probably wondering, like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if you haven't seen Godzilla vs. Kong yet, this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler. It is one of the internet's worst kept secrets, of course, and it has to do with a monster in that movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, prepared for the spoiler, because here it comes. But he talks about Mecha Godzilla. And so I'm going to get into this. So without further ado, let's sit back, relax, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let's get this action started. Okay, so as I had said before, this is something that Adam Wingard had said. He did an interview with Inverse, and he was talking about how Mechagodzilla's design was inspired by Transformers Dark of the Moon. And I kind of find this absolutely hysterical because at the end of the day, you're sitting there wondering, like, okay, well, what is he talking about? Well, if you've not seen any of the live-action Transformers movies, just know that they are popcorn flicks. They are not trying to make the Transformers look as good as their original counterparts. They are trying to make them look like mangled metal. And I have never, ever been a fan of the design of the robots. And in action, it makes it difficult to make out what's going on, especially when, Michael Bay likes to do this with, in front of your face, so you can't even see anything from a worm's eye perspective, and you're sitting there wondering, like, I can't see the Transformers in action. Well, the director for Godzilla vs. Kong feels the same way, and to be fair, I understand there are people who like the designs. To me, Michael Bay's design for Transformers was terrible, and I have a few things to say about Mechagodzilla 2. But I want to get into the interview first. The best part, obviously, isn't Godzilla or King Kong. I disagree. But instead was another classic Japanese movie monster that joins the battle and is technically a surprise, but no big secret that Mechagodzilla plays a major role. And so Adam Wingard says, I just always love the simplicity of Transformers designs, so I tried to create a look to the character that was punchy and had just a little bit more simplicity. So more like G1 Megatron instead of, Michael Bay's Megatron that looks like this. Yeah. And he says, for Wingard, Mechagodzilla has always been the dream, the director behind the popular horror movies like You're Next and The Guest, along with Godzilla vs. Kong and the upcoming Face Off 2. Oh, I didn't know he was doing Face Off 2. I'm hoping that's not terrible. I'm really hoping that that's not terrible. This is what the original Mechagodzilla looked like, and I am a big fan of this design for Mechagodzilla. To me, this is the iconic. This is what Mechagodzilla should have looked like a little bit more. But the Mechagodzilla we got kind of looked like 2014's version of Godzilla, where like the dorsal fins are a little bit more square, and he's a little bit mechanical. So, but believe it or not, Mechagodzilla was inspired by Godzilla's rival, King Kong. Mechanicong, the villain in the 1967 Toho-produced King Kong Escapes, and was the basis for an artificial Godzilla clad in metal armaments. There's rumor, and I'm not 100% on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told that Mechagodzilla himself, the Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the first movie, was supposed to have King Kong, but they instead did King Caesar. I've been told that, and from my research, it possibly could be true. But to go into what Adam Wingard actually says, as a director, is exciting because I can finally put my stamp on the monsters. Godzilla and Kong already been redesigned for the MonsterVerse, so to do so, Wingard thought back to another classic Japanese giant robot, but the inspiration for Mechagodzilla's new look actually came from one of the worst movie experiences the director ever had. And this is where it crosses over with Transformers and Mechagodzilla. He went to go see Transformers Dark of the Moon, and so he says, I remember watching the third Transformers movie in the theaters. It was one of the things that where I was with a date, we got there late, the only seats available were literally in the front row. So I'm sitting there watching Transformers 3 in the front row, and I couldn't tell what the hell was going on. And he continues, the Transformers, they just looked like metal. They looked like a plane crash. Thank you. So I thought there's the thing that I wanted to avoid. They're too complex. There's too many moving parts, and I couldn't latch onto anything. Nothing felt iconic with the Transformers design. Now, you can talk about the stories, you know, how, like, it feels like this Mechagodzilla takes a lot from the Transformers movies, the live-action ones. But, yeah. But as far as simplicity, this design for Mechagodzilla does look simpler than what, you know, some people might have been expecting if they were expecting a Michael Bay-esque Mechagodzilla. But the design still, I feel like it should have been should have looked a little bit more like that classic Mechagodzilla design with the, you know, they put the missiles on his shoulders. And that's where they came out, and he had like these weird spinning hands, and the tail itself had a pretty cool, you know, blade weapon. But, you know, it didn't. I don't necessarily think it was the best looking Mechagodzilla design, but it was a lot better than a lot of the stuff that Michael Bay created in his Transformers movies. And Adam Wingard agrees. He says the Transformers animated movie from the 80s with Orson Welles was one of the best movie experiences for me as a kid growing up. Period. And I totally 100% agree with him, because, you know, as a Transformers fan, you're sitting there wondering to yourself, like, okay, how come these designs don't look iconic? I don't see the robots that I'm familiar with on screen. That's what I wanted to see. Yes, I wanted to see the special effects, and I'm still a proponent of the fans being the stars. That was the robots being the stars. You know, in Godzilla vs Kong, that was quite the opposite, right? The Transformers were not the stars of the Michael Bay films, but Godzilla and Kong specifically, more in that movie, was the star of the film. He's the one that stood out. He's the one that, you know, all the humans were irrelevant. You know, it was Kong, and it was Godzilla, and it was Mechagodzilla, and it was, you know, creating those three monsters and bringing them together and having them battle. That was what the movie was about. I don't care about anything else. You know, and, you know, you could say the same thing about Transformers. You know, you only care about the action with the robots and stuff like that. But if you can't make out the designs of the robots, if the robots themselves are not the stars, then Transformers in and of itself fails in that respect. You could be a fan of Michael Bay's films. I'm not. I'm clearly not. And the thing is that if you know, on my main channel, I talk a lot about Transformers. And by talking a lot about Transformers on my main channel, you know, I have to watch a lot of Michael Bay, and every time I cringe when I'm sitting there going, why was the dialogue written this way? Why does it feel like, you know, someone who was just going through puberty is writing this dialogue? It literally feels like that. I mean, I just cannot grasp my head around that stuff. And mind you, Godzilla vs Kong is a mindless popcorn flick. If you saw my review, I gave it a fair review. I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the monster action, and the monster action was good. That's what I paid to see. The Transformers action in the Transformers films it's just too much of a headache. And like for you know, director Adam Wingard, he feels the same way. But I want to know what you guys think. You know, did you see Godzilla vs Kong, and do you agree with him when it comes down to the design for Mechagodzilla? And are you still a fan of Michael Bay's Transformers? Of course, there are going to be people who are fans of both, and they enjoy both, and they're more entitled to that. But I want to know what you guys think. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe. I have more videos coming on this channel as well as my main channel, so you can stay tuned for all of that. And as always, guys, until next time, till all are one.